I think listening to the very measured and very logical sequence in which the distinguished Foreign Minister of Singapore laid out the retentionist argument does require from us a response, and some of you endeavored to do this. I wish to also make two additional remarks. One is, of course, so long as we're human, we will never be mistake-free. And I think even the distinguished distinguished Foreign Minister of Singapore will agree that the Singaporean judiciary cannot be said to be completely 100% mistake-free. It would be an impossibility to make that argument. The other point on the invocation of sovereignty, quite aside from the 1993 Vienna Declaration and Plan of Action on Human Rights, which made it clear that the human rights of all individuals are the concern of all of us, it's quite clear that if the conditions spoken of by the distinguished Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore did not obtain in respect of, let's say, a Singaporean national in a country where charges were filed and clearly the judicial process that followed was fell way short of international standards, one can quite easily see that the distinguished authorities of Singapore would be aghast that their national could be put to death in another circumstance. And so we need to have a broader view of this. Finally, I myself have a personal story which I have on occasion spoken of, and I'd like to convey to you now. 3 or 4 months after I became High Commissioner for Human Rights, and preceding that I had for 20 years the privilege of representing my own country here at the UN, a country that I love deeply and a country that I still retain the utmost affection for, put to death 11 persons, and this was in December of in 2014, some 8 years after a de facto moratoria was put in place. I wrote the press release myself, expressing our deep regret that this had occurred, and then discovered only a few weeks later that it was my father, who was regent at the time, who signed the death warrants. I had possibly the most difficult meeting you can imagine between a father and a son, a father who deeply, deeply admires his father, or a son who deeply admires his father. And my father said to me, the government felt it had no choice. The government felt it had no choice. He said the crime rates had gone up, there was a pressure to do this, and he himself felt he had no other recourse. I think what we've heard from everyone here, not least these incredible panelists, is that you always have a choice. You always have a choice. And I think it is very clear that the international community is moving in the direction of the right choice. And that's the answer I gave to my father.